guys, JB here, a very special edition of Drive to Win. I am not inside the SiriusXM studios at the Wynn Casino in Las Vegas. I'm instead sitting in London because I came over, made the trip for the British Grand Prix this past weekend. Seemed to be a lot of reasons that made it make sense, namely that it's the British Grand Prix, and then we have the Goodwood Festival of Speed. I'll talk about that a bit later. So I came over because the British Racing Drivers Club, the BRDC, owns and operates the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, and I'm a member. It's one of those clubs that you aspire to be a member of because all your heroes were members of it. And to be honest, including my dad, I used to go to the BRDC with him. I thought, wow, will I ever achieve that status in racing that I get proposed and invited? And when I was in the Viper years and winning the World Championship in Le Mans, I got the chance to be invited. So I used to love going to the Grand Prix, and there was a sense of pride and ownership. And then I emigrated to America in 99, 2000, and I haven't been back. 26 years since I walked through the gate at Silverstone. So it was really quite an experience, not emotional, but reflective, because it made me realize the progress that not just Formula One, but Silverstone, the BRDC, has made as they develop the property. I wouldn't have found my way in the gate, actually. I didn't recognize one part of it until I saw the old garages, pit garages, and I was like, okay, I remember those. You see, when you're watching the Grand Prix, you can actually see the BRDC suite on the corner of one of the, right on the corner, and all the guests there, and they save the best viewing space for the members who own the track and all the guests. So really tremendous. And in the club, what I found I don't know, that really did hit me, was there were a lot of the older guys who created this sort of genre of sport we're with now, as well as a lot of my peers. Some of my peers, guys I raced against, you see a white-haired, portly chap walking towards you, and you go, oh my God, I remember you in Formula 4, but that was a bloody long time ago. So it was really fun, and a very privileged way to watch the race. And I saw my guest for this week, John Watson. He was in there, and a former British Grand Prix winner holding court. And that's when we organized for him to come on the show. Again, he came in this time last year. So we'll get to John a little bit later. What is it like being at Silverstone, driving in, seeing the British fans that makes it so different? There's something about the scale of it. I think it had almost 500,000 people pass through those gates over the 3 days. An enormous amount of people. And when you see the infrastructure to get in there, it's still a pretty narrow road, and people camp overnight. And I just really enjoyed seeing the passion that everybody has. And British fans, they're very partisan. So you really see them, the way the merch is. You can see, it's not hard to see who's supporting who as you walk in. And it was really, really fantastic. While I was in the BRDC farmhouse, they have a farmhouse at which you can watch the race from, and they have a grandstand there, and you have the main suite. You kind of go between the two. I was in there and seeing guys like Jason Plato and Andy Prio, one of the world's top touring car drivers. My dad and my brother Sebastian had managed to wrangle themselves into a McLaren pit box hospitality. They ended up seeing Jeremy Clarkson and the old British Prime Minister and top basketball players, and Gordon Ramsay. So definitely they had a slightly different experience, but they said they were treated so well, and seeing the cars up close, seeing them operate out of the pit box, my dad was blown away. So I actually need to get him on soon to talk about that, because he really did have a great time. He said, why didn't you ask Zach Brown for a ticket? I said I did. And the answer for me was no. Well, the weather was, as you could tell on the broadcast, a little wet, hot in between times, humid in that Englishy way. And so it definitely was, we knew going into Sunday it was going to cause quite an interesting race. But how can we start the show without talking about Lando Norris and what he achieved? Winning the British Grand Prix as a Brit has to be the single most purely emotional high that you could ever have as a British racing driver. The same for Max Verstappen when he wins at Zandvoort, I'm sure. The same for any of them when you win your home Grand Prix. But just taking the grid there must make every single British driver feel like a superstar. But to lead the race, to come across the line first, and you ask Damon Hill and Jenson Button, Lewis Hamilton, David Coulthard, Nigel Mansell, Johnny Herbert, and John Watson, I guess. It is a singularly defining career moment that elevates everything you do. So I I've got to admit that even though the circumstances of Lando's victory were manufactured, despite the speed he went, were manufactured by the penalty that Oscar Piastri got. It was exceptional for him, and it gave me. I mean, it makes you emotional, and I can really get that. I wonder if I want to ask John what it was like because he had that experience. But the noise, did you hear the noise when Lewis overtook, or when Lando overtook, or George overtook? The place erupted. Just hearing the sounds, the roar of the crowd above the sound of the engines, which isn't hard because the engines are pretty flat and boring, to be honest. But above everybody, you could hear the crowds around the circuit. Just rah, rah, you could tell where the cars are. It must really, especially in qualifying, it must give you an extra bit of oomph and a bit, a little bit of extra drive to, to dig a little bit deeper. Even though I think it's hard for these guys in these cars to dig as deep as you might have been in a more linear, what do you call it? A world when we didn't have all these electronic aids, basically, because the cars are on the ledge nearly all the time. But I think just that partisan support must have been amazing. I mean, my only way to even come close to that was the last lap at Le Mans in the Viper in '98. I did that 4-minute plus lap or whatever, hearing every noise in the car, every ping, ting, diff, gears. You're just listening for problems, but you know you're going to win, and tears are starting to run down your face, and you're trying to hold it together to hear the fans. So I get it. Not the same scale, but I get it. And his family were there and everything. Truly amazing. Um, but how great for McLaren to have two top drivers, top tier drivers. I think it's reinforcing to every other A-list team that there is no other way to do it. And while they are lining themselves up, George Russell with Kimi Antonelli, I mean, those guys, Lewis with Charles, I mean, incredible drivers, incredible pairings. McLaren have got the trifecta. They have Oscar, Lando, and a car that is now the most dominant car. And the fourth factor in this, making it not a trifecta, making it a four factor, I don't think that's the thing, is that the whole team believe they can win every single time they go out. They believe they can be on pole. They almost expect it. And so they just attack it with a vengeance. And I love that. I think that's really important, and it shows so much. Is the mental strength. It's the team support they have around. And, in the end, speed is not enough. It's all about how they work. But of course, they have got this urgency about them, and I understand it. I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago. In 26, the clock's reset, guys. There's going to be no advantage going in. It's status quo, and we'll very quickly find out who did their homework right and got the engine package and all the interpretation of the regulations. Will it be Adrian Newey with Aston? We don't know, which is why Oscar and Lando are like frothing at the teeth that one of them has to actually win this, because it might be the only chance they get for another 2, 3, 4 years or not. But I think there's even more urgency than ever if you need more urgency to try and win a world championship. So I think the season will go down to the wire, and I think they will come to physical mano a mano car blows before then. I think the fireworks are going to get too big. And then Andrea Stella and Zach Brown they'll need all the charm they can get. Before we kick off the main interview with John, let's just talk quickly about the Incredible Hulk finishing third. Nico Hulkenberg, I'm a late bloomer in life. I think he's the best example of one. He's now my new hero. He finally stood on an F1 podium after 239 tries, which is quite remarkable. And of course, Sauber's is their first top three result in about 13 years. So absolutely amazing. I mean, he really has had incredible form this year. He's led the team so well. And you can just see how well regarded the German is. I mean, every single driver there according to social media, were sending him congratulations. It's one of those things when one of the good guys actually makes it, a guy that he had 3 years away from racing, everybody. 3 years out of a Formula One car. He did go on and win Le Mans. But then he kept first guy as a rookie to do it, actually, I think. But he came back and great tire strategy. He maximized the conditions. So you could say all that, all you like. But in the end, behind the wheel, he didn't lose it. He gained it. And everyone was dealt the same cards. So I couldn't actually be more impressed. I remember it's a whole network, family, friends, sponsors, team principals, everybody had kept the faith and it was delivered. I mean, wow. Wow. Tears in the eyes stuff, right? I love it. Can't wait to see what Drive to Survive make of that story. It'll be fun. Well, it's that time of year again, guys, to get your plans in order to attend the 2025 Concours right here at the Wynn Las Vegas. This year's event is a weekend-long celebration that promises to be the social event of the fall season, where the world's most prestigious cars and the top automakers will grace the greens of the Wynn Golf Club for the 2025 Concours. This is the 4th annual gathering, and it'll feature an expanded showcase of more than 250 unique cars. This year's event will take place from October 31st through November 2nd. And for more information regarding tickets and room packages, visit LasVegasConcours.com. That's LasVegasConcours.com. Okay, John Watson. He is back for the second time. I think I talked to him right after the British Grand Prix last year. He was in Formula One for 12 seasons. He won 5 Grand Prix, including the British Grand Prix. He raced for Brabham, Surtees, Lotus, Penske, and McLaren. But the main Grand Prix for him, I really do believe, was right here at the British Grand Prix. That's the one I want to ask him about today. So, John, welcome back to Drive to Win, and I'm so glad to see you.
Slightly different circumstances. Justin, we were at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix in the hallowed grounds of the British Racing Drivers Club clubhouse. Great to be there. I mean, a wonderful Grand Prix. For me personally, it was a great Grand Prix. On the one hand, I'll come to the second hand a bit later, but I, for the first time, actually stayed in the members' car park, rented one of these amazing American motorhomes, sliders, fantastic, best Grand Prix, probably since 1981.
So like the best Grand Prix experience, you mean? As in being there, not getting stuck in the traffic?
Absolutely. And it wasn't so much just the traffic, that's a big part of it, of course, but it was the ambience, the friendship, the camaraderie amongst other campers. I mean, some of the equipment that people bring along is just, there's somebody even had a hot tub apparently in the members' car park. I think they were skinny dipping, but nobody bothered with it. Get on and do what you want to do.
Well, it depends which member was skinny dipping, because I saw some that I would not want to see naked jump in and out of a hot tub. I mean, the British Racing Drivers Club, just to explain, I think I started telling everyone at the beginning of the show, but it's an institution quite unique in the world, isn't it? And the fact that, it owns the track, it's responsible for running the track. Apparently it's making a ton of money these days. But John, I wouldn't have recognized it. I didn't recognize the circuit. I didn't recognize a thing. I haven't been there in 2 decades. It's unbelievable.
Well, I think the Grand Prix shows just what Silverstone has done over the last, principally, I think, since Liberty Media took over. I mean, in the period when Bernie Ecclestone ran Formula One, it was a different circuit, particularly the degree of entertainment that's now available for the spectators, particularly. It's an event. It's a show. It's not just a Grand Prix. But in the last 3 or 4 years, and largely, I would say the responsibility lies with Drive to Survive, the awareness of Formula One and the insights that program has given the public at large to the people, the characters, the personalities, the drivers, the hangers-on, the babes, and whatever. It's brought a different perspective. And suddenly, Formula One, Grand Prix racing, is a must-visit activity event. And I mean, I think they were talking about 500,000 people over the 3 days, 4 days. I mean, it's just massive. And I mean, you come into the circuit as you would have done at the weekend, as opposed to going there in a wet middle of the winter, November, Wednesday, rainy morning, when the only thing you see around are the rabbits that are brave enough to poke their head above the ground.
Yeah, I thought it was a spectacle. I do want to say that, putting my little BRDC pin on, you're wearing your badge now. I mean, it means something. I haven't been there, as I say, in a long time. I felt very accepted. It was nice to see my peer group, who are now gray-haired, your peer group who haven't got much hair. I mean, you're good, but a lot
That's
of them,
not bad, is it? It's
not
all
bad
mine,
at all.
all mine.
Not bad. But, I thought seeing some of, the icons of our sport all there. Of course, there were a billion guests, so I don't know who they were, but it was, I thought it was a great experience. And what a location to watch the race from. But, well, let's jump into that, John. That's what we're here to talk about. Before we get into your overview of the race, obviously the weather was very trying for everybody. And I don't know if you're like me. It's been a long time since you raced competitively, and not as long, but still a long time for me. When I see those mixed conditions in the lead up to the race, I get the same feeling in my tummy. Don't you? I'm like, you know what it was like sitting there in the truck going, shit, I've got to start on into wets, slicks. I mean, you're playing Jeopardy suddenly, aren't you? Terrible,
Yeah.
terribly difficult to choose.
Well, first of all, Justin, I mean, I'm not racing. I haven't raced since really 1990. But in my heart, I'm still racing.
Yeah.
And when I go down to my local supermarket in Oxford, and they've got 4 gates with barriers on it, and I'm alongside somebody, barrier, I've got to beat them out of that gate. And if I don't, I'm really, really upset. And that's it. I can't get rid of it. The trouble is, once you've been in a competitive industry, as we have been in, and all of a sudden you go into what is called sort of retirement or whatever, but you still retain all those values, those sort of things generate. I mean, adrenaline is the principal thing. I mean, I live in adrenaline. It's my favorite sort of, you might say, afternoon, whatever. And it comes through. Going to the airport and I get to Heathrow Terminal 5, nobody can catch me. Coming back from a race Sunday evening, 10 o'clock at night, I'm your elbows out, everything, get out of the way. I mean, mums and children, they've got no chance whatsoever. Just cutting straight through them. Get to immigration first, into the car park first, on the road first, 45 minutes, breaking the speed limits, back to my home. Job done. Then the weekend's finished. That's what a racing driver should be doing.
All the time. Life in the old dog yet. So
still
come
is,
on,
man. Still is.
Come on. There am I. I think I started this show telling everyone what a nice Grand Prix it was, but you're about to blow my story totally apart. Come on, I know you. You've been itching for 2 days to tell me what you thought about
2 days since the last interview, Justin. I thought I was going to get a follow-up straight away, but I've had to wait a bit of time. But there we are. You've had other guests on.
Hey, we're on a much bigger audience now. We're on Sirius XM now.
Yeah.
We're on a massive network now, so more people are hearing you. So
yeah, but I need a bit. Justin, I need a bit more Tucker Carlson out of you.
Well, let's see what you're going to do. I want to hear. So I thought it brought a lot of interesting dynamics. It was a great spectacle in so many ways. There was so much to talk about, but lead with it, John.
Well, I mean, the event was a fantastic event, whichever way you choose to look at it. I was very, I would say upset, let's say not disappointed alone, that what occurred at the second safety car, when it was the safety car then was going back into the pits, Oscar Piastri was leading the cars. And once the safety car deployment is complete, then it's the lead car takes over, in effect, the role of the safety car, and he will control the pace of the field. Now, what happened coming down Hanger Straight, clearly we all saw. But what I think I disagree with was the penalty. And I think at worst, it should have been a reprimand. Arguably, if you want to go beyond that, he could have had a point or 2 or 3 points on his license. But to give him a 10-second penalty in the context of the Grand Prix, I thought was a very, very severe penalty. In my mind, Oscar Piastri was the clear winner on Sunday. The fact that Lando Norris came first doesn't change my mind.
Let's dissect what you said there. Obviously, there's a lot more I want to talk about the race, but we'll come back to this point in a minute. But I do want to say he wasn't. The pole sitter is allowed to control the pace. That is, you all sorts of gamesmanship have gone on since man in a chariot would probably get the horse to go against the other. It's what we do. We bullshit each other, don't we? You know the feeling. You're looking at it. Can you get the guy to go? And when he hits the brakes, you go. I mean, that's what we all do, right? 100 times. I know Oscar put a lot of brake pressure on, but him going by, it happens all the time. When Max overshot him, you just refile into your order and then you get going. I don't think it was such a big deal.
In my opinion, I can understand why people would have said they thought it was dangerous, but there was no incident. There was no accident. Nobody lost out as a consequence. I mean, if you think back to what happened in Canada when Norris ran into the back of Oscar Piastri, did he get a penalty? I don't believe he did. And I think there's been a couple of incidents during the season where Max and George Russell have gotten, again, this thing about jockeying behind the safety car, the lead car and the safety car chain might do something which is maybe a little bit erratic, but it's not going to be a 10-second penalty, particularly in the context of an extremely difficult race. And by doing so, the race lead was taken away from Piastri. And while he ran down Norris towards the end, he got the gap down to just under 4 seconds at one point. It was a fruitless pursuit, so he just sort of let the balance of time run out. And as I say, I felt, well, first of all, the best result of the Grand Prix was unquestionably the third place for Nico Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
That was the drive of the race, effectively.
Absolutely.
And I think that Oscar Piastri's drive would have been close second. Lando Norris did a very good job and he won the race, but it wasn't the outstanding drive in the Grand Prix as far as I'm concerned. Poor Nico Hulkenberg's done 280 or something Grand Prix, so never had a podium. I remember watching Nico when he was A1GP in the early 2000s, and he was the standout competitor by a country mile. And where has his career gone? Well, it's basically been in teams that have not been the front-running competitive teams.
Yeah.
And I mean, the joy in his face to finally lose his cherry, by getting onto the podium for the first time. I mean, he's now at a point in his career where he was probably thinking, well, how much more time am I going to have?
I couldn't agree more. I think I would like to touch on that again at the end because I think it's such a high note. But just back to the Lando Oscar Max thing, and you hear it with George, you hear it with them all. In your day, what would it have been like, and I'm not picking on just that moment, what would your crew chief have said if you were like, oh, he cut me off. Oh, he got really close on the outside of the corner. Ow, that looked dangerous. These drivers are communicating on the radio like they got the wrong anatomy. It's become this, let me tell tales on you first so it can go up to race controller listening, so I might get you a penalty. I'm not a big fan of it because it's a really manly sport. I hope one day there's going to be an amazing woman. That's a different story. But right now it's a manly man sport, and at the top in Formula One. And I think they're all just so whingy. That's why I kind of like Oscar Piastri. He doesn't often go, oh, that looked really dangerous, or that could have been dangerous. Motor racing doesn't work on the principle or the premise, John, that almost dangerous isn't, or almost an accident isn't an accident, is it? It doesn't count for crap. Yes, it was dangerous potentially for Max, but he didn't hit him. I don't get it.
I think a lot of the reason for it is that if you follow American racing, NASCAR in particular, radio traffic is a major part of all that.
Nah.
Radio traffic has come into Formula One, and at one point, I think maybe going back to 2021, particularly in Abu Dhabi, the final Grand Prix, there was radio traffic from ship to shore, another's car to the pit lane, and there was traffic from the pit lane up to race control. And there was a question of whether a race director in the pit lane was telling the race director in the control room what to do. So it got out of control. But I think, frankly, there's too much, but it is a part of the entertainment. And, okay, you're not allowed to swear because the president of the FIA has decided nobody's allowed to swear. But I think the race winner said the F-bomb or dropped the F-bomb on the podium. Yeah. He might get a fine for that. Look, we're living in a society. Don't get me into all this stuff because, I'll be going down the route of one of your real redneck sort of politicians. I think that the world has changed. It's a softer place. Formula One in my era wasn't the toughest place in the world, but we didn't have communication as it stands today. All we would have is a mechanic standing in the pit lane, handing out a pit board, giving us plus and minuses, slow down, speed up, or whatever. Once we started the Grand Prix, one set of tires, a full tank of fuel, the lights or the flag fell, off we went, and we had to balance the pace of the car with the tire wear and not overusing the tire too early. It was a much more involving event for a competitor, for the driver. But today, it's a much bigger platform. You've got the pit lane involved, then you've got the backup team back at the headquarters for any of the teams. So they're all doing live connections to the. So it's no longer, if you wish, the sport that I competed in from really 73 until 1983.
Yeah.
Is it better? Is it worse? No, it's different. I mean, there's elements of it I don't particularly enjoy. And you get a little whinging going on. Oh, mommy, 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 mommy. Is it time to change your diaper, darling? Would you like to come and do that instead of doing a pit stop? I mean, for goodness sake, guys, it's a tough sport. The one thing you should be grateful for, it's almost impossible for any one of you out there to hurt yourself. You couldn't try hard enough to hurt yourself because the sport at every level has been made so safe. Cars are safe, racetracks are safe. Now, they're not necessarily safe for other forms of motor racing, but for Formula One, certainly the technology and the construction and the design of Formula One cars is just amazing.
Yeah.
And you look around Silverstone, I mean, you need a set of binoculars to see where the limits of the corners are. But that's progress, and it's all for the better because we don't want to go back to the good old days or the bad old days when almost every race there's a fatality. I mean, Jackie Stewart was doing something just recently, and he said that 53 of his closest friends all died in this period as a Grand Prix driver. We don't want to have fatalities. No. But at the same time, we want to see competitors, whether it's men or women or both, competing and not whinging. And as soon, I mean, oh, he cut me up, or the other thing that upsets me, and not upset, it just drives me nuts. And it happens in commentary. Oh, there's too much wind. Well, he ran by it. Oh, the wind must have just. Is wind something that's just been invented? Was there wind when you were racing? The only wind in a commentary booth that's coming out of somebody's mouth or somewhere else. And I just wonder what's new about wind. I only once was affected by wind, and it was because a military helicopter in Kyalami in South Africa was hovering over the racetrack at about 50 feet, and the downwash from the helicopter threw the car off the racetrack. But I don't ever remember coming in and said, hey, guys, ran behind or somebody did something, and the wind upset the rear of the car. It's all a part, I mean, I don't want to say the Me Too generation, but it sort of has overtones of, where is this going to end?
Yeah, well,
where is it going to end?
I think thankfully, the way the entertainment of the race goes, the broadcast, the in-car cameras and things, it's a different form of engagement now, and thankfully without the danger. I mean, we don't, with the Grosjean crash a few years ago, it makes you still realize it's bloody dangerous. And when they go to Spa in a few weeks, that's when they
put Justin, I mean, I used to go to Spa as part of the 24-hour broadcast at a GT3 Europe World Challenge, whatever. And for those cars, there still is a lot of danger, but that's partly because there's such a big field. But even going through, I mean, a GT3 car, competitive GT3 car, now goes through Eau Rouge over Radion, flat out. Certainly in qualifying, and maybe not far off it in the race.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I thought Eau Rouge was maybe the most challenging corner in the world in any racetrack. And now the second big corner there, Blanchimont. When I went to Spa the first time, Blanchimont, you had trees about 2 feet from the edge of the racetrack.
Yeah.
I mean, you were that focused you. And just recently, Nürburgring 24, I watched that, was on TV, streaming it. And I thought, wow, I love the curbing they have around the racetrack, because those curbs are big, rounded. You don't want to go near them with a barge full. And I just wonder, if we had more curbing and racetracks, sure, it would get rid of all this track limit abuse. But there's a problem, because now circuits are used for dual purpose. They're used for motor racing Formula One, and they're used for MotoGP. And MotoGP, you can't have in a circuit where you've got that style of curbing. So that's another reason why the tracks have been moderated. But of course, as soon as you moderate it, certainly in a Formula One car, if there's another 6-10 feet on the outside, people are going to use it.
Yeah, that's why we should never have any surprise.
People getting done for track limit abuse. Mommy, nobody ever told me before I got a Grand Prix that's a track limit. Mommy, what am I going to do? Jesus, strike me dead.
Good job you're not behind the wheel, John. Listen, let's
Justin, I was a good overtaker. You know that.
You were a very good overtaker. Well, let's jump back into the races. I can hear my producer, Jeremiah, going, talk about the bloody race. One thing that happened right at the beginning after that first safety car, obviously we had Lawson and Ocon hitting each other and teammates hitting each other. I mean, Tsunoda was right there in the middle. It's never a cool thing. We saw it with the Haas's later. They seem to have magnets for each other, some of these cars. very difficult conditions. Just think about the investment, the cost when you're teammates. 2 cars out, not out, one and a half. I think both were out actually, weren't they, after that?
Yeah.
But I mean, just that's what kind of set the scene right at the beginning for me. You're like, this is going to be a chaotic race. And then of course we had the rain come back down, and Antonelli was the first one on the first to pit for slicks and things. But about lap 8, we had that moment when Piastri passed Max for P1.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you something, because Lando had it later on. I could hear the crowd across the speakers roaring. I mean, obviously on site we could hear it, but then when I watched the broadcast again yesterday, the British partisan crowd, I know but it's McLaren overtaking Max. Do you remember that? Can you remember that feeling of the British crowd behind you, like wild things?
Well, I had it in 1981. And towards the end of the Grand Prix, Rene Arnoux in the Renault was leading, but he was slowing down. And I was catching him, and then overtook going up into Beckett's. And all of a sudden, the public, there was about 60,000 people there. It was on a Saturday, by the way. Silverstone used to run this Grand Prix on a Saturday. And then there was a sudden awareness within the 60-odd thousand people present that there was going to be a British driver, albeit I come from Northern Ireland, but a British driver was going to win this race. And it wasn't anticipated. There was going to be really a turbocharged car that ought to have won. A Renault should have won it, maybe a Ferrari, but the Ferrari wasn't really a good car in that year. And all of a sudden, the realization that a British driver was going to win it. And the crowd all of a sudden, and you may think back to the good old days of Nigel Mansell. And Nigel came to Silverstone, and he believes in lots of things, but he certainly believed in people power. And he said that without hesitation, shadow, question, or doubt, I get probably about a second of a lap benefit from the support I'm getting from my fans. That's his Birmingham accent. And if he believed it and it made him work, go for it. Now, I didn't have that kind of support that Nigel had, but I was aware of it building. And as the laps counted down towards the finish, more and more people were standing up and clapping. And I didn't really hear the cheering. I was trying to focus on what I was doing. But certainly following the race, checkered flag, and then the slow down lap, and then about half an hour later did a lap of honor on the back of a Bedford TK truck. There were people standing on the racetrack, and I said to Jack Lafitte, who was beside me, what are these people doing? And he turned around and said, well, John, they're doing it for you because you've given them the result a day that they didn't anticipate. They're over the moon. And it was one of those emotional, very unexpected days for the public in general, and they got a winner, and they went away very happy.
Yeah, no, it's lovely. I love it, and you could feel it. And I mentioned it at the top of the show. I think it really does give Lando and George and everybody, it gives them a bit of wings, so to speak. So it's very good. But let's talk about rain. Obviously, that rain dumped down around lap 14. The safety car came out, and Silverstone, when it gets wet, I mean, that Northampton, it dumped down. Worse, it didn't seem so bad.
Sorry, hold on. Silverstone is dissected by 2 counties. Buckinghamshire is the sort of south bit. Northamptonshire is sort of the northeast bit. So sometimes it rains only in Northamptonshire, but not in Buckinghamshire. But I think it dumped pretty much all over both counties.
It was a by-county dump. It really was.
Just going back, 1975 British Grand Prix, Silverstone. Started to rain. We were all on slicks. It didn't rain heavily enough in the opinion of the majority of the competitors. Lauda and Fittipaldi chose to stop, but everybody else more or less thought we can pussyfoot our way around and it was going to clear up. But between going through Stowe on the previous lap to coming onto the current lap, it had absolutely a microclimate thundered down. I'm coming down Hanger Straight doing 160 mile an hour on the 30s, and I'm looking down, there's like a mirage in front. I thought there's all... and all of a sudden hit this almost like an inch deep of water. And you can water ski in a plank of wood about 20 mile an hour. Well, on 4 slicks doing 160 mile an hour, this thing just spun, and I thought I was dizzy with the spins, and eventually it came to a stop in the catch fencing at Stowe Corner, along with about 3 or 4 other cars, and another 4 or 5 further down the road in Club Corner. And that was the microclimate that Silverstone can generate. And we were just caught out by it. And I think Fittipaldi won the race from Lauda. But I mean, the pit stops in that time, you need an alarm clock to wake you up because it would take you that long to do it. And
So
that
you
was
couldn't do
partly
it.
why people didn't make a pit stop.
I mean, just before the safety car game, we had that, very pivotal, not so pivotal as it turns out, but, when they came in and the McLarens were double stacked, and it blows my mind. 2.2 or 3 seconds. Then 1 second later, another car comes in, and I mean, it's
But
remarkable.
Justin, there was 9 seconds between the two McLarens at the point they came in. So they're coming in and they've got to break down to 50 kilometers or 50 miles an hour. So Oscar came in, whatever his pit stop was, 2.2, 2.4 seconds. He was rolling again before Norris ever got to the pit box.
Yeah.
But it takes very, very accurate monitoring by the team and good pit work by the team for servicing the first car comes in to make sure there isn't a fumble or something goes wrong, because then the second car will be sitting there like a lemon. And McLaren executed that perfectly.
Yeah, a little slow on the left side for Lando, which put him back behind.
No problem, Lando, mommy.
I think what was very good, and I love it, and this is why I like the broadcast, it puts people in the seats that you and I have sat in, visibility-wise. I think when Hajar hit the back of Antonelli and went in the barrier, I was like, that's finally what I've tried to describe to my friends or race fans and what it's like to drive a racing car, GT or Formula car behind behind another car. You can't, I say, imagine you're on the M1 for Americans, the 405 or the I-95 with the wipers off in the pissing rain behind a truck. That's what you're dealing with. And he just, boom, straight. I mean, it was a great illustration, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think maybe to some degree it was an element of, I think Ajik Hadjar is one of my stars of the season. I think he just got caught out by the lack of visibility.
Yeah.
One of the things that you require as a Grand Prix driver is good, certainly peripheral vision, spatial awareness, because you can't necessarily see what's directly ahead of you, but you're looking out the side to recognize where you are. But if you're getting close to another car and that car makes a move or something happens, you're going to be a passenger. And Hadjar it was a schoolboy error. But look, I think he's done an outstanding job this season. And I would certainly say, look, live and learn from it and move on.
Yeah. Well, obviously, we've got that front group. Then we had the Max thing. And, you could, I was walking between, I wasn't looking at the screen when I heard that come up. And I'm just like, because I like you, I was like, oh, Oscar's right at the beginning, the minute he took the lead and had the pace, I'm like, it's Oscar's race.
Absolutely, 100%.
It's
100%.
written. It's written. I could get the old trophy engraver to start. I felt, and I heard that, and I'm like, oh my god, this. Is he going to try and pull out 10 seconds? Which is your first response, right, John?
Yes, sure.
You go, F this, 10.1 second lead, and I've still won this race. But he couldn't do it because Lando did have good pace this weekend. Not Oscar, but the delta between them is too tight. Could they have handled that any different, McLaren, do you think?
I don't think so. Once the penalty had been served to Oscar, I don't know whether McLaren, I don't know the regulation specifically to say, could they appeal it? Or is it a fait accompli? In other words, is their decision, that's the decision, whatever. I think after the race, there's certainly grounds to examine the rationale for that when you consider other incidents that have occurred, throughout the season, bearing in mind, while it maybe it could have been an accident, could have been, potentially hazardous, it didn't. So it's like saying, oh, darling, be careful. If you fall off your bike, you might hurt yourself. The point is, don't fall off it and you won't hurt yourself. Nothing happened. I don't understand why they gave him a reprimand or maybe at most some points in his license. But to do what they did, I felt was too harsh for something which didn't happen. And okay, reprimand, don't do it again. But we've seen incidents like that this season already. We saw what happened with Norris running in the back of Oscar. No penalty to my knowledge, So why was a harsh penalty given in this instance for the driver who had been the dominant driver throughout the Grand Prix and had twice had to lose his lead because of safety car interventions? If I'd been leading the race and that happened twice, I'd have been, protecting my position, certainly from another restart, to make sure that Max, who's the sharpest guy on the draw. You saw what Max did when he regrouped and then started to charge after Oscar, lost it coming out of Stowe. Lost any potential to be on the podium. Arguably, Max could have won that race. Had he not spun, I think he would have won the race, because I don't think Norris would have been good enough in terms of out and out ability. He may have had the quicker car as the track began to improve towards the end, but I think Max would have had a very, very good chance to win that race had he not spun off coming out of Stowe.
So let's just pick up on something you said there. Lando wouldn't have been good enough to hold off Max. It's so interesting, isn't it? Because nearly everyone skirts around the issue that there is a generational greatness to Max. In equal cars, I actually don't know. Lewis in his day, for sure, right? I mean, he could have taken it to him. Could he? Probably, but he's so good. And he's driving maybe the most difficult car on the grid, as evidenced by his teammates' disastrous trail of legacy of career-ending second drivers. I truly believe that in the back of all their minds, they're like, if Max, his car is anywhere near mine, and he's on, it's in the window, he can beat me. He can beat anyone on the grid. That's my feeling. I just don't think. I think he is the Magic Johnson or the Kobe Bryant of our racing.
Well, I would say, I think the consensus of opinion in the paddock would be, if there's such a thing as an equal car for every driver, then I think you would say that Max is going to be the most competitive driver. But part of the reason why I say what I said about Norris, bearing in mind that the track gradually dried out to the point where it was we run on slicks. But if you think back to the Brazil Grand Prix last year, where the weather conditions were pretty bad, not much different to what we saw in Silverstone, Max literally walked on water. I mean, he was just mesmerizing. And Norris struggled. I think he finished in the end 6th or something. He just couldn't make any progress. Now, the strength that Norris has, as does Oscar, is that the McLaren is by far, I would say, the best car. You saw the gap between second and third was, 32, 33 seconds. It was a massive gap. Maybe in the drying conditions, there would have been a big challenge coming from Norris on Max. But Norris has had history, form, in trying to overtake Max in a competitive situation. If Max's car deteriorated on slicks and Norris's car retained that level of performance, then he might have gotten by. But Max is not going to give you an inch, and he's sort of got Norris's number a little bit. I mean, if you make a pass in a straight line, then that's just down to coming off the corner quicker, and you're just carrying more speed. But to try and challenge Max in Silverstone with the nature of the corners, the very high speed of the corners, it's not going to be an easy task. And I'm not persuaded that he is equal to Max in terms of racing ability and skill, or even fundamental racing nous.
Yeah. So I'm going to quickly jump to the facts. We've only got a few more minutes, but a great result in the end for lots of other people. Lando, proud favorite. Everyone, the British crowd going mad. Oscar just wishing he could fly straight home, I think, but gracious enough. The elation of Nico Hulkenberg's third place. I always say everyone approaches, and I try and remind everybody listening to this, every personnel with any team, from the caterer to the team principal, goes to a racetrack on a Sunday believing, and you shouldn't be there if you don't believing that you can have a great race, right? I mean, you have to, by definition of being a competitor. But 239 starts, I mean, come on, that's something wild. And there you are. So, amazing for him.
Just goes to show that never give up. And I mean, Nico Hulkenberg has been, in my opinion, an outstanding competitor who's never really been given the opportunity in a top car, in a top team.
Yeah.
And if he could take his career back 10 or 15 years, I mean, he was going to be, without hesitation, question, shadow, or doubt, arguably the next Michael Schumacher. He was that good in A1GP. But for some reason, and he went to Williams, and I forget all the other teams he's been to, he's never had that opportunity since. Now he's gotten his podium position. It'll be interesting to see when the teams go to Spa, if that transforms into another. It's not likely to be another podium in Spa, because unless we got typical Spa weather, which you wouldn't want to bet against, if it's a dry race, then there's going to be the regular teams are going to be running away with it.
Yeah.
But he can still. What Sauber and Audi are doing are moving forward. good key personnel moving in Jonathan Wheatley. I think he's going to bring an awful lot of experience and knowledge to the team. And of course, the team they're going through the motions, if you wish, until 2026, when they will become officially the Audi Formula One team. And that will include the Audi developed power unit, which is going to be very interesting because we don't know how good it's going to be. Maybe transformatively overnight, the Audi team could be the team that's going to make the most progress. And if Nico Hulkenberg's in that, he's going to ride it like a surfboard.
I love the fact that it gives everybody on the grid that midfield, that motivation, that you put yourself in the right position. You can do it. I love it. So obviously the Ferraris, they're or thereabouts in their own way. I mean, I think I enjoyed watching Lewis. I think you can see those flashes now. Come on, he's a 7-time champ. I mean, you know what he can do. If he gets in that window, you know he's going to have a good run. And I hope it carries on to Spa.
Well, I think the circumstances of Silverstone are unique for Lewis. He's won 7, 8, 9 times. I can't remember again. And I think that Lewis recognized that Silverstone was going to be his best opportunity to win a Grand Prix this year. And certainly at different points during practice and qualifying, he was right there. But of course, then with the rain coming in and how the car interacts with the conditions and circumstances of visibility, even if you're not really leading or running in second place, the visibility even from third, fourth place back is pretty poor. I would hope for Lewis to be on the podium. Actually, you know what? I would have loved Lewis Hamilton to win at Silverstone in a Ferrari, in as much as there was a huge Lando Norris support around the racetrack. Because I'm an old guy and I enjoy watching senior Formula One drivers still showing they can get the job done in really challenging and difficult circumstances. Wasn't to be, and maybe Lando Norris represents the new future for British Formula One. Certainly, he's got all the speed that he needs. It drives a car beautifully, and he's got a really lovely, lovely fluid style of driving. There's still areas within his makeup that might need to be sharpened up a little bit. But whether you can do that or whether he can self-improve, I don't know. Time will tell.
God, I've got so many questions I want to ask you about the disaster that is Yuki Tsunoda. Not that he is a disastrous driver, but it just is a poison chalice. And I think we're not even talking about it. The broadcasters aren't talking about it, running around at the back. I think Red Bull are like, you know what? Shut up. We know we run a one-horse team. We've got Max. We don't need another horse. And let's just focus on next year. It has to be what they're thinking. Who's going to go in that seat? But I do want to say, do you think there is any smoke to the fire of Max to Mercedes?
I think at the minute there's a number of possibilities. I mean, first of all, next year Red Bull will have their own in-house designed, manufactured or developed unit. Secondly, 26 is a brand new technical regulation, set of regulations, which nobody really knows how's it going to work or which team will come out on top. If you choose to leave your current team and you went to Mercedes, or what other options? Maybe Aston Martin might be an option. Adrian Newey is there. And remember, next year, Aston Martin's going to have Honda power units. So that's a very strong reason why you might think, well, continuity, Newey, Honda, that might be a good berth. But the team itself, I think, still is in the throes of transforming from the team it was into the team that Lawrence Stroll wants it to be. Mercedes, they've got all the infrastructure, capital, whatever it takes, and they will have a good car, whatever you think. And certainly that would be a dream team in Formula One terms and for Mercedes-Benz, should Max choose to go. But I think there's more maybe underlying issues. And there seems to be issues, and I don't know quite what has caused it, but Jos Verstappen, Max's father, and Christian Horner seem to be headbutting quite a lot. And what's that got to do with Jos? Well, it's probably got quite a lot to do because Jos and Max and Raymond Vermeulen, who's his manager, very tightly knit unit. And they think as a unit, they're not just thinking singularly. And they'll be looking around and thinking, well, where is going to be the best place to place Max for the future? He's got a contract, but no doubt there'll be breakpoints and performance clauses and whatever in that contract. But if for example, to go to Mercedes, who would Mercedes stand down? Can
And
you
it
stand
shouldn't
down
be
George Russell?
It should not be George
I
Russell.
agree, but
Yeah.
Mercedes, what would they do? Would they stand George down? Would they say, well, George, yes, we'll keep you on a single-year contract, and we'll farm out Kimi Antonelli for a year to one of our satellite engine teams? It's not an easy situation for any of the teams. And, if Red Bull can sort of smooth out some of these issues, I could see Max staying for a year at Red Bull to see where all the other teams are going to be, as well as Red Bull. And then if he wants to make a move for 27, then he's going to be in a better position to judge where's the right place for me to go.
I agree. I think that's what I'd do. John, we could talk for hours. We're going to have to do this again. Let's not leave it a year.
Put it in the diary. I'll do it every month if you like.
I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Would you ever consider putting him on a fee?
Fee? I'm a bell, and you're Irish. What do you think I'm going to do? I'll give you...
No, listen, I'm always happy to help out and enjoy doing it. I love having a platform to have a little rant occasionally.
Thank you. Well, listen, let's touch base anyway after Spa and see how they've done.
I'll be on this network, whatever you like. I'm here. Just give me a call. Not going far from Oxford. I'm going to Goodwood this weekend, by the way.
I will see you there. Thanks, John. Thanks for joining
the show.
Pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Good fun.
Always fun to talk to John Watson, and a childhood friend. Not for him, but for me. I was a child and I knew him. Okay, this weekend is the Goodwood Festival of Speed. I bring that up because I'm driving a 96 long-tail McLaren F1 GTR, probably worth about $30 million. And part of the Gordon Murray automotive tribute to Gordon Murray, I'll be driving one of his creations as well. Really excited. More excited about the fact there are current and former Formula One drivers there. Esteban Ocon, Ollie Berman, Portoletto, Liam Lawson, Valtteri Bottas, and I'm going to get to them all. So I'm looking forward. Maybe I can set them up for an interview further down the road. But the next race on the calendar is Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, which is known as Spa, one of the big boys, guys. This is a racetrack that real drivers love for so many reasons. It's set in the beautiful forest. It's dangerous. It's fast. Eau Rouge, La Sorte. It's just got corners that really you watch a Formula One car defying the laws of physics. And those boys have to earn their money there. So we're going to see certainly some of the cars performing better than others there because the driver does make a difference. Lewis Hamilton won last year, which is quite amazing when you think about it. So what do I think is going to happen? Oscar Piastri, everybody, will come out of the gate like a bull on ecstasy. I don't know. Ecstasy and Viagra, because he is so pissed at having had the win at Silverstone taken away from him with that penalty. And I believe he's going to come in so motivated, knowing he has to retain his lead in the championship, also wanting to not back Lando, having won 3 races in a row. He's going to need to stop that landslide. And what he has in his cockpit is an amount of self-confidence that I think is going to be really on a high. Talking of which, Lando, after 3 wins in a row, is probably in the best place mentally he's ever been. He's won at 3 very different types of track. And I think he's going to be really difficult to beat. But it's going to be out qualifying, isn't it? And Max, now he is a man that will also be back with a vengeance. He's had 2 offs in 1 race this weekend. When did that last happen? And he loves fast tracks. He loves actually taking him and his car, that Red Bull, beyond where anyone else can drive it. And I definitely think, even though they have the restrictions and drawbacks for a 1-car team, Max, man, he's going to be right up there again. It's all about who gets pole. So will Ferrari slide in there? Here's my prediction. Lewis is understanding how to drive the car. For some reason, Charles is having a bit of a dry spell right now, but I reckon they've got upgrades coming for Spa. They've got a whole new rear suspension, apparently. I reckon they're going to be on the podium in Spa. I really do. I think they're going to be 3rd and 4th. That's my prediction. But of course, they're heading into the back 9 of the Formula One season, so to speak. We do have the break coming up in a few weeks in August. That's when everyone recalibrates, but they want to go into that with the best results they can. It just sets the scene for the last part. So I really reckon Ferrari right there. I think we're going to see Mercedes. I just don't see them being part of that front fight. I think George will be fast in the race in qualifying, but I don't think they have the race pace. So you want my prediction? I reckon it'll be Oscar, Lando, Lewis. There you are. I'm not in Vegas, so I feel I'm missing the whole casino thing. That's my bet for the race. Let me know what yours is. Anyway, thanks to everybody, obviously, at the Wynn Las Vegas for having me on the show, and to SiriusXM ESPN channel Extra 81. You know when to see us, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesdays, and of course on the app. I will see you very soon. Thanks, guys.